Hello, and thank you for joining us today. We'd like to spend some time today talking about how paid employment affects Social Security disability benefits. We're going to cover the top 10 myths that most people encounter when they're working with individuals to help them find employment. Now, I wanted to start off by saying that when Lucy and I do this training normally, or do a training on Social Security benefits normally, we spend a lot of time with individuals. We spend 3 8-hour days of face-to-face training working with people to understand all the complexities of the Social Security disability benefits and their work incentives. And then we spend about 16 hours in a web course that follows that face-to-face training. Now, once someone finishes the web course that we offer, then we give them a case study or an assignment to take home and work on that. And it usually takes people anywhere from 16 to 20 hours to complete that. So in all, we're talking about 60 hours of time spent with participants to understand all of the benefit programs and the work incentives. Well, today we have 40 minutes, and so as you can imagine, we're not going to touch on everything that you might encounter when you're working with an individual. But what we thought we'd do is spend some time just to dispel some of the things that you hear most often that are incorrect, and hopefully get some good information out to all the providers and as well individuals with disabilities who encounter issues with their benefits. So let's get started. Myth number 1. The first myth is something that we hear a lot. I work for a CRP program and I provide job coaching and employment services, and understanding Social Security disability benefits is not part of my job. Do you feel this way? Have you heard your coworkers say this? Well, unfortunately, this is wrong and very dangerous to customers who are receiving employment services. The fact is that CRPs, employment specialists, job coaches, they need to understand the basics of Social Security disability programs. I know your job is to find an individual a job and to help them become successful in that job. However, I should tell you that as a new employee at VCU many years ago, I spent my time as a job coach and worked with a lot of different individuals on finding jobs in the community. And you don't have a lot of time to work with individuals on their benefits. But finding the job is the easy part. It's the benefits that's very complex and very frustrating for many individuals. So we need to address their concerns and questions that they have regarding their benefits, because if we don't, either they'll not work, they won't even try work, or we'll spend all this time looking at what their skills and abilities are and how we could be successful in a job placement, help them find a job, get them settled into their job, train them in their job responsibilities, and then they'll get that letter from Social Security that says, we have some questions about your work. And they panic and they quit their job. So all of that time that you've spent with an individual has just gone down the drain. So we really need to look at what their concerns are up front. Looking at an individual's concerns and questions should be the first step on their path towards employment. And how do you make that first step with them? How do you help them understand their benefits and what will happen when they go to work? Well, the key is to educate yourself. You need to sit down with an individual and talk with them about what benefits are you receiving. Are you getting Social Security benefits? If so, what type? How long have you been receiving them? As well as, are there other benefits that you're receiving? TANF, HUD, food stamps? What about those benefits? Because, see, work will affect those benefits as well. Now, once you've gathered all this information, it's not going to do you any good to have this information unless you know some of the basics about how work will affect them. So you need to participate in trainings like this. enjoy this webcast training and learn as much as you can. You can also look online. There are tons of publications by the Social Security Administration as well as VCU and other entities out there that can help you learn more about Social Security benefits and other benefits and what work will do to those. And since you can't spend an enormous amount of time with individuals sometimes, you need to know who is out there in the community that can help. Who are your local experts? Where can you turn when you don't know the answer? Well, there's several places. The first is Social Security. An individual who's receiving disability benefits can contact their local Social Security Administration and set up an appointment to discuss what their questions and concerns are and clear out any information that they might have that might be incorrect and go ahead and look at what work will do to them, those benefits, before they begin a job. Now, you'll also find individuals who are scared to go to Social Security or don't feel comfortable contacting Social Security regarding their work. So for individuals such as those, they can contact their local Work Incentives Planning and Assistance Projects, or WIPA is the acronym. Now, these are newly funded through the Social Security Administration and replace what was previously known as Benefits Planning Assistance and Outreach Projects, or BPAOs. And the goal of these projects is to support the successful employment of individuals with disabilities. These projects can provide detailed benefits planning regarding questions individuals have when they go to work or while they're currently in work. And they're located all over the country. Every community has a WIPA project that they can contact. Now, I do have to say that there are a few areas of the country who do not have a WIPA project assigned to them right at this moment. However, Social Security is working with projects to determine or to finalize those projects, and that information will be available real soon. However, there is a temporary project for those locations. To determine where the WIPA project is that you should contact in your locality, you can go to www.ssa.gov. And the best part about their services is that they're free. So it's another service that you can access that you don't have to worry about who is going to pay for this. Okay. Now that we're clear that understanding an individual's benefits are part of your job, let's look at myth number 2. Social Security disability benefits are all the same, and that if you've seen one benefit, you've seen them all. Well, unfortunately, this is not the case, and nothing could be farther from the truth. The fact is that Social Security has 2 different benefit programs. They're called Title II and Title 16. Have you ever heard of these programs before or heard of them referred to in this way? Title II and Title 16 are true Social Security terms. Most of you don't hear them referred to in that way. Now, Title II encompasses 3 disability programs: Childhood Disability Benefits, or CDB, and this is for children who are receiving benefits on a parent's work record, and that parent is either disabled, retired, or deceased. The second program available under Title II is Social Security Disability Insurance, or SSDI. And this is what many of us are familiar with. This is what we've heard of before and what we're most comfortable with. And this benefit is received when an individual has actually worked and paid into the system, and then they receive a benefit off of their own work record. And the last is Disabled Widows or Widowers Benefits, or DWB. And this is a benefit that an individual receives off of a deceased spouse's work record. The other program is called Title 16, or Supplemental Security Income, SSI. A lot of you have heard of this, I'm sure, and this is a benefit of last resort. It's truly for individuals who have very limited income and resources. It is for individuals who just have very little money to pay for their food and rent. Now, if a single individual has more than $2,000 in resources, he or she will not be eligible for this Title 16 or SSI benefit. And resources include anything that an individual can exchange for cash or change into cash for food and rent. Some examples of resources include savings accounts, stocks, retirement funds. So let's look at what some of the differences are in these two programs. All right, remember that we only have 40 minutes here, not 60 hours, so we're just going to touch on the highlights. And many of you are thinking, well, she didn't cover everything. Well, I know. I'm doing the best I can in a very short amount of time. First, Title II benefits, and remember that's the CDB, SSDI, and DWB, are all or nothing benefits. Either you receive the benefit, the full amount of that cash benefit, or no check at all. There's no gradual reduction in an individual's benefit. So one month they may receive their full cash amount, and the next month they may not. And oftentimes you'll hear of this referred to as the benefits cliff, where one day they're getting it, and then the next month they're not. Now, with Title II benefits comes Medicare, and this is an excellent program for individuals, or excellent medical benefit for individuals who have disabilities, and many of them hold on to this very tightly because it's more important to them than their actual cash benefit. Now, the key to Medicare is that you remember that there's a 24-month waiting period. So once an individual becomes eligible for a Title II benefit, they're going to have to wait 24 months before their Medicare will actually be available to them. Now, Title 16 or SSI benefits are totally different. These benefits are gradually reduced as a person's earnings increase, and if the individual's earnings decrease, then their cash benefit will increase. It's very similar to a scale, whereas one side goes up, the other side goes down. And with SSI comes Medicaid. And this is a clincher for many people. They need their medical benefit, and they're absolutely terrified of losing that medical benefit. And the same goes for Medicare and Title II. They're terrified of losing that medical or Medicare benefit. Now, the important thing to know about Medicaid for Title 16 is that there's no waiting period. So this is a great, way for individuals when they become eligible for SSI, they get that Medicaid as opposed to having to wait for it to become active. The last thing I want to touch on this slide is that there are individuals called concurrent beneficiaries, and those are people who receive both a Title II and a Title 16 benefit. And this is not uncommon. There are individuals that I've worked with in the past who began receiving SSI when they were young and never worked before. I assisted them in finding a job and working a few hours a month at a relatively small wage per month, and they worked for several years, and all of a sudden they became eligible for a Title II benefit. So now they're receiving a Title II benefit on their own work record and a very small reduced SSI benefit. These individuals are called concurrent beneficiaries. And oftentimes they have very complex cases, so these cases are oftentimes a little bit more difficult for individuals to navigate with their benefits. Okay, are you ready for myth number 3? I know y'all have heard this one before. If an individual works at all, they'll lose their Social Security disability check. Well, this is something I hear all the time, and not only from individuals with disabilities, but from individuals who have family members who have disabilities, service providers. Lots of people feel this way and think that this is true. So let's try to get to the facts. Well, the fact is that income affects each program. And with Title II, beneficiaries receive one trial work period and one extended period of eligibility. And these are oftentimes referred to as TWP and EPE. Now, a trial work period is 9 months, not necessarily consecutive, in a rolling 60-month window. And this is a time where individuals can try out work and earn as much as they want without having to fear the loss of their Title II cash benefit. So they can work and earn a wage and they won't lose their Title II benefit. Now, once the trial work period ends, the extended period of eligibility begins, and it lasts for 36 months or 3 years. During the extended period of eligibility, Social Security looks at whether an individual is earning a substantial wage. Now, if an individual is earning what Social Security considers a substantial wage, then the individual will not receive their benefit check for that month. If the earnings are not determined substantial, then they will receive their benefit check for that month. So remember, it's that all or nothing. Now, you might be wondering what's considered substantial. Social Security says that an individual is earning a substantial wage in 2007 if they're earning over $900. And you might be wondering, well, aren't there work incentives that are available to an individual who's receiving a Title II benefit? And there are. Those are cessation and grace period, impairment-related work expense, or IRWE, subsidy, extended Medicare, and expedited reinstatement, or EXR. Unfortunately, we don't have time to review all of these today, but we do have a link in your materials to the Social Security Red Book that gives you an overview of this information. Now let's move on to SSI. With Title XVI or SSI, earned income or wages affect them differently. Remember, this is the program that has a gradual reduction as an individual's earnings increase. For SSI, Social Security counts less than half of an individual's earnings. And they use a very specific calculation to determine what an individual's benefit payment will be for each month. And in that calculation, they take into consideration several work incentives and exclusions. And those work incentives and exclusions include 1619A and B, earned income exclusion, student earned income exclusion, or SEIE, impairment-related work expense, or IRWE, blind work expense, sometimes referred to as BWE, and plan for achieving self-support, or PASS. Now again, we can't go into all of these different work incentives. However, Lucy will touch on a few of them later on in this webcast. But there is information in the Red Book that is listed in the resources section of your webcast training page. Okay, myth 4. If an individual loses their check because of work, then they're going to lose their medical insurance too. Well, like myth 3, this is very common and very misunderstood by many individuals. And most people feel that if they lose their medical benefits, they have no other options, and that this is very disturbing to individuals, especially individuals who have disabilities, who have very high medical expenses. The fact is that substantial wages may cause the loss of a benefit check, but not their medical coverage. For Title II benefits, when an individual loses their check, then they'll be able to keep their Medicare coverage. For Medicare Part A, this is an individual's hospitalization. And individuals will get to keep this benefit for 93 months past the end of the trial work period. So 93 months after an individual's trial work period ends, they will get to keep their Medicare Part A. And this is called extended Medicare coverage. Now, once extended Medicare ends, an individual still gets to keep their benefit, but they will have to pay a premium and have to actually purchase it. And there's a monthly premium associated with that. Now, Medicare Part B covers an individual's doctor's visits. And Social Security will bill an individual for these on a quarterly basis. And there's a monthly premium of about $80 per month. Now, for individuals who receive SSI benefits, there's a safety net called 1619B that protects them from the loss of their Medicaid when they go to work. Now, 1619B is available for individuals whose SSI decreases to zero due to work earnings, due to their wages, not anything else but from their earnings. In addition, the individual must continue to meet all of the other SSI eligibility requirements, such as continue to be disabled, as well as meet that resource limit of having no more than $2,000 available. And individuals can keep their 1619B benefit up to the point in which they earn their state's threshold amount. And the state's threshold amount can range from nearly $16,000 in the Northern Mariana Islands to $50,000 in Alaska. It depends on where you live. Here in Virginia, where I live, it's $27,000, or around $27,000. So in order to find out exactly what your state's threshold amount is, you can visit the Social Security website. Okay. The last myth that I am going to cover today is myth number 5. If an individual loses their benefits, they can never get them back again. Not true. Not true. First, we need to determine why an individual lost their benefits, or if they were suspended or terminated. That's the big question. If an individual lost their benefits because they were in their extended period of eligibility and they earned a substantial wage, then their benefits have been suspended, not terminated. If the individual loses their job or reduces their hours during the extended period of eligibility, they simply need to contact Social Security, explain the situation, and Social Security will reinstate their benefits. Individuals on SSI who lose their cash benefit through earnings are still eligible due to 1619B and still connected to their benefits. Their check has just been suspended as well. So if this is the case, then they lose their job or reduce their hours, they simply need to contact Social Security and let them know the situation, and then Social Security will reinstate their benefits. Now, on the other hand, if an individual's benefits are actually terminated because of work, there are 2 ways to get them back. The first is called expedited reinstatement, or EXR. Expedited reinstatement is available to individuals who received either SSI or a Title II benefit, and their benefits stopped due to Social Security, or their benefits stopped by Social Security due to their work or earnings. Now, individuals are able to request that their benefits start again without having to go through that whole reapplication process. And while Social Security determines if they're eligible for benefits again, they can receive up to 6 months of provisional or temporary benefits. Individuals who are eligible for expedited reinstatement are Title II beneficiaries or SSI beneficiaries who stopped receiving benefits because of work earnings, are unable to work or cannot work due to their disability, are unable to work or cannot work at a substantial level, continue to be disabled, and that disability relates back to their original disability that they were originally found eligible for benefits, and they make the request within 5 years from the time that their benefits were terminated. Now, if we're past the 5 years from the point in which an individual's benefits have been terminated, then the only choice an individual has is to reapply. And this requires that an individual go through that whole process again of the reapplication. Now, we're halfway through our myths, and Lucy will finish up our last 5 myths.
Good afternoon, everybody. My turn now. Poor Jennifer, I stuck her with the yucky myths, the ones that require all that detailed explanation that takes us 60 hours to train benefits planners or work incentive specialists on. And I get the sort of fun myths. So let's go ahead and start with these. We're on myth number 6 at this point. And this is something you hear all the time. You know, CRP staff will say part-time work is always the best way to make sure that SSA beneficiaries will keep their cash payments and their medical insurance coverage and be able to work. And that would include Medicare and Medicaid. You know, the problem with this myth, the reason we see this is that CRP staff are so insecure about their knowledge of the work incentives that they tend to be far too risk aversive. This myth is actually true. It is true that part-time work, for the most part, will keep a SSI beneficiary as well as a Title II disability beneficiary from losing cash benefits as well as their medical insurance coverage. The problem is, in many cases, full-time work is also allowable. So this myth, while it is true, is seriously unfortunate because it causes us to reduce the amount of work for the people that we're working with. It causes us to encourage them to work less and not more, and generally for nothing, for there's no reason that the individual could not work full-time. For the Title II disability beneficiaries, if you are working part-time and those earnings remain under substantial gainful activity, there's that yucky acronym, SGA, and remember, as Jennifer indicated, that in 2006, the SGA amount for a non-blind individual is $900. That's before taxes, gross, in a month. So part-time work that is under the SGA level will certainly allow for the ongoing continuation of cash payments with no problem there at all. But the unfortunate part is, here the second bullet, is that in many cases full-time work will also be perfectly fine. One size absolutely doesn't fit all. And when we're telling everybody, oh, just work part-time and you'll be fine, we're missing some people that could engage in more work, earn more money, have more fun getting out of the house, and they're needlessly holding their earnings down. Now, even though we haven't had time to teach you some of the more complex work incentives like subsidy, which you see mentioned on this slide, and impairment-related work expenses, which when you get crazy like we are, you just refer to as IRWIs. You can apply these work incentives and even earn more than the SGA amount without losing your cash payment or your medical insurance. So not only is part-time work not necessary, but it's even possible to go over that SGA amount and still retain those cash payments and critical health insurance. Well, I want you to be sure to pull up that red book, which is one of the links that we have given you for this webcast, because it will talk to you a whole lot more about IRWIs. But as a quick review, the purpose of IRWI, and actually IRWI can be applied to both Title II disability benefits and the SSI program, In the Title II program, an IRWI, which is used to reduce countable earnings below the SGA level. And what is it? Well, IRWIs is just a recognition from Social Security that sometimes a person with a disability is going to have extra expenses that they incur in order to go to work that a non-disabled individual is not going to have. And in the Red Book, hopefully you will click on that link and pull that up, it will give you numerous examples of IRWIs. It is very common for a beneficiary to have impairment-related work expenses, and unfortunately, because we are not informed about the use of this incentive, they oftentimes are not applied to reduce those countable earnings. Just that the deduction of the cost of those items or services reduces countable earnings for an SGA determination, but in the SSI program, because your benefit check is actually reduced as you earn more, an impairment-related work expense can allow you to keep more of your SSI cash payment. Again, allowing you to work more and keep more of your benefits, all a good thing. You can, with the SSI application, there's no form that you have to fill out. Rather, with the IRWI, you simply write a letter, you indicate why you think the expense you're incurring is an IRWI, and Social Security will approve that, and then they can begin deducting that on your earnings. Subsidy, goodness me, we can teach a 2-hour training on subsidy and still not teach you everything you need to know. Suffice it to say, this is a work incentive that applies to the Title II disability programs only. It is a recognition on Social Security's part that sometimes a person with a disability can actually be paid more in their earnings than the value of their work. And an SGA determination in the Title II program is not about what a person received in their paycheck as much as it is about the value of their work effort. And subsidy allows you to look at like extra supervision, extra time given to complete a function at work, a variety of things. It allows you to put a value on that. You can deduct that value off of the earnings to lower countable earnings. Again, the whole point is that if you get fixated on part-time work, you're going to deny some of the people you work with that opportunity to work more, to earn more, to have a better quality of life. So that one size just doesn't fit everybody at all. In the SSI program, also as Jennifer indicated, it isn't necessary to keep your cash payment in order to keep your Medicaid. She introduced the concept of 1619B. That's that extended Medicaid coverage. Part-time employment certainly will allow you to keep some of your SSI payment and your Medicaid, but again, full-time employment is also, in most cases, perfectly acceptable and appropriate. It may cause the complete loss of the SSI cash payment, but the way it works, you don't give up a dollar for dollar. They're only going to take a dollar away for every $2 that you earn. It's one of those truisms in Social Security that you do always come out ahead by working in the SSI program. And even after you lose your SSI cash payment, you don't lose your Medicaid until your earnings start to approach your state threshold amount, which, as Jennifer indicated, can range anywhere from $16,000 a year up to $50,000 in the state of Alaska. Now, the downside of part-time work is that sometimes it causes people to become concurrent beneficiaries, and Jennifer touched on that as well. And a concurrent is someone who gets both SSI and Title II disability benefits. And it's not the end of the world, but it can complicate matters. Now you've got 2 sets of work incentive rules, which can be difficult. And the best way to avoid becoming a concurrent beneficiary isn't to work part-time. It's to work full-time and have those earnings actually over that current SGA amount. Again, that's about another hour-long explanation as to why that's the case, so you're going to have to kind of trust me at this point, and maybe that will entice you to get some more training in this area so that you can explain why that's the case. Myth number 7, boy, do we hear this one. You know, people will say to you, I've heard about this thing called PASS. That's a plan for achieving self-support. And I've heard that thing is a panacea and it can solve every problem that a beneficiary might encounter, but you just have to know how to work it. Like, you know, there's some trick involved in this, and if you're real smart and real experienced, you can use this pass to do all these things. Pass is a wonderful work incentive, but it isn't magic. Let's look at the purpose of a pass. It's really to allow an individual who has a work goal, a career goal that they've identified, to set aside income, whether it's earned or unearned, or resources, in order to purchase the services or supports that you would need to achieve that work goal. It actually works by having that income or resources not count in either an SSI eligibility determination, or for a person already on SSI, it wouldn't count when Social Security is figuring out the reduction in their check. So it allows you to either become eligible for SSI when before this you had too much income or resources, or it can allow you to keep more of that SSI cash payment once you go to work. Well, PASS is not a magic wand, okay? There's some stuff it doesn't work for. It is not a way to reduce countable earnings for an SGA determination for a Title II disability. It doesn't work that way. And not every beneficiary is a good PASS candidate. You know, if you're on SSI only and you don't have any income or resources to use to set aside in your PASS, a PASS doesn't do you any good. If you're someone who really isn't interested in working, a PASS isn't going to help you, because a PASS is all about setting aside income or resources to achieve a work goal. PASS involves a lot of time and effort. There's a required form you have to fill out. It's quite lengthy. It's not low maintenance. It's wonderful for a whole lot of people, but it isn't, again, something that everybody who gets Social Security disability benefits is going to be able to use or would even want to use. Now, it is what I kind of call the mother of all work incentives, meaning that it's the most complicated one. I want you to get some help from your local WIPA, that's Work Incentives Planning and Assistance Project, to help you learn what a good PASS candidate is and then how to help facilitate a PASS. Myth number 8. Now, we're going to switch to some myths that you're going to hear from beneficiaries. This is common. I've been working for quite a while. I did report my earnings to Social Security when I first went to work, but you know, I'm still getting the same Social Security disability check I always got, so I figure Social Security knows what they're doing and I'm entitled to that check. Well, you know what they say about assumptions? They're really dangerous. Assuming that your unchanged check is correct is not a good idea in the world of Social Security. For SSI recipients, by now you should realize that even a little bit of work is going to cause a reduction in your check. So if you're an SSI recipient and you go to work and you report and you don't see any change at all in your check, that probably means something went wrong, like the person you reported to didn't enter that data into the system, so it's not being acted upon. The rule of thumb here is that for an SSI recipient, if you're earning more than $85 in a month, you should be seeing a change in your check. And we've got to work with beneficiaries to take more control and responsibility in this area, rather than being so passive and assuming that whatever they're getting is the right amount. In the SSI program also, it takes 2 months for you to see a change in your check, so that's something to be aware of. And if you are getting payments you're not entitled to, it's not like that's a gift. Eventually Social Security is going to figure that out, and then you got a back payment, and that's no fun. In the Title II program, as Jennifer indicated, there is no gradual reduction of your check. You're either entitled to your full check or no check at all. So for some people, not having a change in their check when they go to work is totally fine. But for other people, it's an indicator that Social Security doesn't understand what's going on with your earnings. If your accountable earnings are consistently over the current SGA, that substantial gainful activity amount, this year that's $900 gross per month, as we've said, for a disabled individual, and $1,500 a month for someone who is getting disability because of blindness. Well, if you've been doing this consistently, you probably are supposed to be losing your cash payment. And as this slide indicates, if you've been working at the SGA level or above for more than a year and you're still getting a cash benefit, it's very likely that you're getting checks that you're not entitled to. And you need to kind of go down to the Social Security Administration and rattle some cages, make sure they understand that you're engaging in SGA so that that check amount can be, well, the check will be stopped is what will happen. You'll move into suspension status. Remember that in the Title II program, in order for Social Security to stop your payment, it means, because of work anyway, it means you have to have had a work CDR. That stands for Continuing Disability Review. And they're often behind in those. So just because you're getting your check doesn't mean that the world is good. It simply means that Social Security may not be aware that you are in fact engaging in SGA, and that's not good news. Again, work closely with your local WIPA program to make sure that the beneficiaries that you are supporting in employment are actually getting the benefits that they're entitled to and not being overpaid. Here's myth number 9. This is really an unfortunate problem that we see. Sometimes our beneficiaries think that if they don't report the income they get, or if they work in a manner that we call under the table, you probably know what that means, where it's sort of cash, that Social Security is never going to find out about it, and no harm, no foul, and I can keep my benefits forever. And quite frankly, this is an extremely dangerous process to assume. And I'm sorry to say that I have seen some CRP professionals encourage beneficiaries to work for cash rather than in the legitimate economy. That's really not good. Beneficiaries are required to report all changes in income. The problem is our folks often don't know what they're supposed to report. In your packet, you should have a handout that indicates the reporting areas that are required for both Title II and the Title 16 beneficiaries. It's a couple of pages long, so be sure you review that so that you know what needs to be reported for both programs. And there are some significant differences. Something we all need to discuss with beneficiaries is the fact that willfully choosing not to report your earnings is considered to be fraud, or it can be considered to be fraud by Social Security. And that's against the law, and you can actually be terminated from your benefits if there is a proven indicator that you are engaging in fraud. So we just need to remind our clients that there are requirements that have to be fulfilled, and we need to fulfill those. The other issue is that Social Security does not just report on beneficiary self-reporting of income, that they don't rely on that. They have numerous ways to determine when an individual is working. First and foremost are those FICA deductions. We all know what those are. They come out of our paycheck every time we get those. And of course, Social Security is the agency that administers that, so they're going to know. They also have access to the IRS records, something people don't understand, which they can interface. And finally, many of the Social Security areas do have a way to tap into the unemployment insurance data, and they can cross-reference with that on about a quarterly basis. Trying to manipulate how you are paid by doing things like working under the table or purposefully suppressing your wages may also be considered fraud by the SSA, and that we just need to warn people about that. The other problem with doing things like working under the table is that in the long run, it actually hurts beneficiaries, because to the extent that you're accepting cash for work that you're performing, you're not paying your taxes. That's not a good thing. You're not making those FICA contributions so that when you reach age of retirement, you're not going to have that retirement benefit to draw upon. Remember, too, that payment manipulations, like taking the money under the table, you can have some pretty nasty ramifications from some other federal departments like the IRS. Nobody wants to be in trouble with both Social Security and the IRS. And you even have to remember that employers are required by the Department of Labor, that's what DOL stands for, to abide by some pretty stringent wage and hour laws. And by having an employer pay a beneficiary in cash, those laws can be violated and that employer can actually get in trouble. So you, the community rehab professional, should never be involved in condoning or facilitating, certainly not arranging, one of these kind of questionable environments. And my attitude is, why would you ever want to cheat when you can get great outcomes by being honest? And the impact of wages on people's benefits are generally not that negative. It's very possible to work in the legitimate economy, contribute to FICA, keep some of your benefits, whatever that individual's goals are. And my attitude, it's better to be honest and report and sleep easy at night than it is to kind of play games and always be worrying about problems in the future of getting caught. There are certainly legal and ethical ways to achieve those financial and benefit goals, and the best way to find out about that is to go ahead and make that appointment, meet with that local WIPA project, talk about your goals, you the beneficiary, and figure out a plan for achieving those. Well, here's our last myth, and I guess Jennifer beat you up on the front end, and I'm going to beat you up on the back end. Here's myth number 10. I've now completed a 1-hour webcast on Social Security disability benefits and work incentives. I know everything there is to know, that I need to know, about how paid employment affects benefits. Well, I'm sorry to say that all Jennifer and I have done for you in this 50-minute broadcast is actually make you a little dangerous. We have given you an inch deep, maybe not even that, maybe a millimeter deep understanding of the Social Security benefits, and that can be kind of a dangerous thing. So I guess my challenge to you is to go back to your home office and to figure out ways for you to get more information. Don't just count on those WIPAs. If you are putting people to work, you need to know about the work incentives yourself. Maybe you don't need to know everything, but you do need to have that solid understanding of the impact of earnings on those benefits and be able to explain those to the people that you're working with. I don't want you to think that your job is to provide in-depth benefits counseling. It isn't. But you do need to understand it, and I hope that our challenge for you today is to keep learning. If you want to arrange some additional training through the CRP RCEP, you need to contact your state liaison. I'm the liaison for the state of Delaware. Jennifer works with Virginia and West Virginia, and if you go to the CRP RCEP website, you can find your liaison. If this is an area that you want additional training, by all means, contact that person and ask to be signed up, and we'll make that happen for you. So that's the quick and dirty, and hopefully that we've dispelled at least 10 of the most common myths about the impact of paid employment on Social Security disability benefits. Have a great afternoon.